My family banned me from the reunion for being too poor, then they saw my name on the building. The invitation arrived on a crisp autumn morning, slipped into the mailbox of my tiny studio apartment with an air of both formality and dismissal. It was embossed in gold lettering, the kind that screamed exclusive and prestigious, just like everything else associated with my family. I held it in trembling hands, reading the words over and over again. You are cordially invited to the annual Whitmore family reunion. Beneath the elegant script, there was a handwritten note from my mother, my own mother, saying, "We'd love for you to attend, but please understand if you feel it might be uncomfortable given your current situation." That was her way of saying I wasn't good enough anymore. Not wealthy enough. Not successful enough. Just too poor. I stared at the invitation for what felt like hours, my heart pounding against my ribs as memories flooded back. Memories of dinners where I sat quietly while my cousins bragged about their high-paying jobs, their luxury cars, their sprawling homes. Memories of my father's disappointed sighs when he asked me about my career aspirations, only to hear me say I wanted to work in social services, a field notorious for its low pay and long hours. And then there were the phone calls that had grown fewer and farther between after I moved out of their opulent estate to live on my own terms. My family didn't approve of my choices. To them, success was measured by bank accounts, not purpose. But this outright banishment disguised as concern stung more than anything they'd ever said or done before. They didn't even try to hide it anymore. They didn't want me there because I would tarnish their perfect image, bring down the tone of their glamorous event. It was as though poverty was contagious, something they could catch simply by standing near me. Still, I couldn't help but wonder why they had bothered sending the invitation at all. Was it guilt? Pity? Or maybe they thought I'd decline without needing to be explicitly told. Whatever the reason, it left me feeling smaller than I already did. Smaller than the cramped space I called home, smaller than the paycheck I stretched to cover rent and groceries each month, smaller than the dreams I once believed in so fiercely. Work was the one constant in my life, the anchor that kept me grounded when everything else seemed to drift further away. As I walked into the office building that day, I tried to push thoughts of the reunion out of my mind, focusing instead on the tasks ahead. My boss, Evelyn Harper, greeted me with her usual brisk efficiency. She was a formidable woman, sharp-eyed and unyielding, known throughout the company for her no-nonsense approach to business. But beneath her stern exterior was a keen sense of fairness, a determination to see potential in people others might overlook. "Morning, Clara," she said, barely looking up from the stack of papers on her desk. "We've got a big meeting today. Make sure the conference room is ready by 10. "Yes, ma'am," I replied, heading toward the elevator. As I prepared the conference room, arranging chairs and setting up presentation materials, I couldn't shake the heaviness weighing on my chest. The contrast between my world and Evelyn's was stark. Here she was, commanding respect and admiration, while I struggled just to keep my head above water. Yet, despite our differences, Evelyn had always treated me kindly, offering guidance and encouragement when I needed it most. She was tough, yes, but also fair, and sometimes that made all the difference. When the meeting began, Evelyn stood at the front of the room, her presence commanding attention. She spoke about upcoming projects, new partnerships, and ambitious goals for the company. But then, unexpectedly, she turned to me. "Clara has been instrumental in organizing these initiatives," she announced, her voice ringing with authority. "Her dedication and hard work have not gone unnoticed. In fact, we're considering her for a leadership role within the department." A murmur rippled through the room, and I felt my cheeks flush. Leadership? Me? The idea seemed absurd, almost laughable. How could someone like me, who couldn't even afford a decent wardrobe for work, possibly lead a team? Yet Evelyn's gaze remained steady, unwavering. "Clara may not come from privilege," she continued, "but she brings something far more valuable to the table: grit, resilience, and a genuine desire to make a difference. Those qualities are rare, and they're exactly what this company needs." Her words struck a chord deep within me, stirring emotions I hadn't allowed myself to feel in years. For so long, I'd internalized my family's criticisms, believing I was somehow less worthy because I chose a path different from theirs. But hearing Evelyn validate my efforts, seeing the nodding heads of my colleagues, it was as though a weight began to lift, however slightly. After the meeting, Evelyn pulled me aside. "Don't let anyone tell you that you're not enough," she said firmly. "Not your family, not society, not even yourself. You're capable of incredible things, Clara. Believe that." Her words stayed with me long after I left the office that evening. They echoed in my mind as I rode the bus home, as I cooked dinner in my tiny kitchen, as I lay awake staring at the ceiling. Belief. That was something I hadn't allowed myself in a very long time. The next morning, I woke up with a strange sense of resolve. Maybe it was Evelyn's pep talk, or maybe it was the lingering bitterness from the reunion invitation, but I decided to take matters into my own hands. If my family refused to include me, then I would show them exactly what they were missing. I started small, reaching out to old friends and acquaintances who had drifted away over the years. Some were hesitant at first, unsure of how to respond to my sudden reappearance in their lives. Others welcomed me warmly, eager to reconnect. Slowly but surely, I began rebuilding the network I had neglected during my struggles. It wasn't easy. Every conversation reminded me of how much time I'd lost, how many bridges I'd burned. But I pressed on, determined to prove to myself, if no one else, that I was still worth knowing. One afternoon, I received an email from an old college friend named Rachel. We hadn't spoken in years, but she remembered me fondly and expressed interest in catching up. Over coffee, she listened intently as I shared stories of my journey, my challenges, and my hopes for the future. When I mentioned the family reunion and my exclusion, her eyes widened in disbelief. "They actually banned you?" she asked, incredulous. "That's insane. You're amazing, Clara. Don't let them define you." Her words bolstered my confidence, giving me the courage to pursue opportunities I'd previously dismissed as unreachable. With Rachel's encouragement, I applied for a grant aimed at supporting underprivileged entrepreneurs. It was a long shot, but I poured my heart into the application, detailing every obstacle I'd overcome and every dream I hoped to achieve. Weeks passed, and just when I began to doubt whether I'd hear back, a letter arrived in the mail. My hands trembled as I opened it, scanning the words until I found the sentence that changed everything. "Congratulations, Ms. Whitmore. Your application has been approved." Tears streamed down my face as I read the details. The grant came with funding, resources, and mentorship opportunities designed to help launch innovative projects. It was more than I'd ever dared to hope for, and it felt like the universe finally acknowledging my perseverance. Evelyn was ecstatic when I told her the news. "This is your chance, Clara," she said, her eyes shining with pride. "Take it and run with it. Show them all what you're made of." And so I did. I threw myself into the project with relentless energy, pouring every ounce of creativity and passion I possessed into bringing my vision to life. Late nights became the norm, fueled by endless cups of coffee and the burning desire to succeed. Friends rallied around me, offering support and advice whenever I needed it. Even strangers took notice, drawn to the authenticity and sincerity behind my efforts. Months later, the culmination of my hard work materialized in the form of a sleek modern building nestled in the heart of downtown. Its glass facade gleamed under the sunlight, reflecting the bustling cityscape around it. Above the entrance, carved in bold letters, were the words, "Whitmore Community Center." It was more than just a building, it was a testament to everything I stood for, everything I believed in. A place where people from all walks of life could come together, learn, grow, and find support. A sanctuary for those who, like me, had been told they weren't good enough. On the day of the grand opening, I stood outside, watching as crowds gathered to celebrate. Reporters snapped photos, local officials gave speeches, and residents marveled at the facility's state-of-the-art amenities. Through it all, I remained silent, overwhelmed by the realization that I had created something truly meaningful. Then, out of the corner of my eye, I spotted them. My family. They stood awkwardly near the edge of the crowd, their expressions a mix of shock and disbelief. Their perfectly tailored suits and designer dresses looked out of place amidst the sea of ordinary faces. For a moment, I considered ignoring them, letting them fade into obscurity like they had tried to do to me. But then, as if sensing my gaze, my mother stepped forward. Her eyes met mine, and for the first time in years, I saw something other than disappointment in them. Regret, perhaps. Or maybe even pride. She approached cautiously, stopping just a few feet away. "Clara," she said softly, her voice trembling. Is this yours?" I nodded, unable to speak past the lump in my throat. She glanced up at the building, taking in the name emblazoned across its facade. "Whitmore Community Center," she whispered, her tone heavy with emotion. "Clara, we had no idea." The rest of my family joined her, their faces mirroring her astonishment. My father looked pale, his usual arrogance replaced by uncertainty. My cousins exchanged nervous glances, clearly unsure of how to react. And my siblings, once so quick to judge, now appeared genuinely awestruck. For a moment, none of us spoke. The weight of the past hung thick in the air, tangled with the promise of reconciliation. I knew this wouldn't erase the years of hurt, the countless times they had dismissed or belittled me. But it was a start. A chance to rewrite the narrative, to redefine what it meant to belong. As I stood there, surrounded by the people who had doubted me and the ones who had believed in me, I realized something profound. Success isn't about proving others wrong. It's about proving yourself right. About staying true to who you are, even when the world tries to convince you otherwise. And now, as I watched my family struggle to process the magnitude of what I had accomplished, I understood that the real victory wasn't in their approval. It was in knowing that I had built something lasting, something that mattered, not for them, but for everyone else who needed a place to call home. The story doesn't end here. There's still so much more to explore, so many questions left unanswered. What will happen next? Will my family attempt to reconcile, or will they retreat back into their gilded bubble? How will I navigate this newfound recognition while staying grounded in my values? And most importantly, will I finally find peace with the person I've become? The moment stretched on, the silence between my family and me thick with unspoken words. My mother's eyes glistened with tears, though whether they were of pride or shame, I couldn't tell. My father shifted uncomfortably, his usual commanding presence diminished by the weight of the revelation before him. My siblings whispered to each other, their voices hushed but tinged with awe. And then there was my cousin Emma, always the loudest, always the most judgmental, standing frozen, her designer sunglasses perched atop her head as if she'd forgotten how to move. Clara, my mother finally managed, her voice cracking under the strain of emotion, "This is incredible." I wanted to laugh at the absurdity of it all. Incredible? Now they thought it was incredible? After years of dismissing me, mocking my choices, banning me from gatherings because I didn't fit their mold of success? But instead, I just nodded curtly, unwilling to let them off the hook so easily. "It's not about being incredible," I said, my voice steady despite the storm brewing inside me. "It's about doing something meaningful. Something that matters to people who need help, not people who already have everything." My words hit like a slap, and for once, no one had a clever retort. They stood there, exposed, their opulent lifestyles and superficial values laid bare in contrast to the purpose behind what I had built. The irony wasn't lost on any of us. The name Whitmore emblazoned across the building represented everything I had fought against within my own family. But just as I began to feel a flicker of vindication, an unexpected twist unfolded. A man approached our tense little group, his tailored suit and polished demeanor marking him as someone important. He extended a hand toward me, smiling warmly. "Ms. Whitmore," he said, his tone dripping with admiration. "Congratulations on this remarkable achievement. Your work here is inspiring." Before I could respond, my father stepped forward, his posture stiffening as recognition dawned on his face. "Victor Langston," he blurted out, his voice laced with disbelief. "What are you doing here?" The man Victor turned to my father, his smile widening. "Ah, Richard Whitmore. Small world, isn't it? I've been following your daughter's project closely. In fact, I'm one of the primary investors in this initiative." If the ground beneath us had cracked open, it wouldn't have shocked me more than this revelation. My father looked like he'd been struck by lightning, his face pale and slack-jawed. My mother gasped audibly, while my cousins exchanged bewildered glances. Even I felt the rug pulled out from under me. Victor Langston was one of the wealthiest philanthropists in the country, and apparently, he had ties to my father. "You knew about this?" I demanded, turning to my father. His silence spoke volumes. "I may have been aware of some investments," he admitted hesitantly, avoiding my gaze. "But I didn't realize it was your project, Clara. Honestly, I assumed it was another one of those vanity ventures designed to make someone look good without actually accomplishing anything." His words stung, even though I should have expected nothing less. Still, I pressed further. "So you knew about the funding but never bothered to check whose name was attached to it? Or did you simply assume it couldn't possibly be mine?" He opened his mouth to respond, but no sound came out. For once, the great Richard Whitmore was rendered speechless. Victor cleared his throat, sensing the tension. Let me explain, he said diplomatically. I met Clara months ago during a pitch meeting for the grant program. She presented her vision with such clarity and passion that I immediately saw its potential. When I reviewed the financials and learned that her family had contributed indirectly through various trusts and investments, I thought it was serendipitous. A way to bring everyone together. To bring everyone together? I echoed, incredulous. You think throwing money at something makes up for ignoring the person behind it? That's not what I meant, Victor replied gently. But sometimes, connections can bridge divides. Your family has resources, Clara. Resources that could amplify your impact tenfold, if you're willing to forgive and collaborate. The proposition hung in the air, heavy and loaded. Collaborate with the very people who had dismissed me, excluded me, treated me like I wasn't worthy of their attention? It felt impossible, yet undeniably tempting. Could this be an opportunity to transform not only the community center, but also the fractured relationships within my family? As if reading my thoughts, Emma stepped forward, her expression unusually subdued. Clara, she began, her voice trembling slightly, we were wrong about you. About everything. We judged you based on stupid things, money, status, all that garbage. But seeing this, she gestured toward the building, her eyes filling with tears. It's humbling. You've done something none of us ever dreamed of doing. And we're sorry. Truly sorry. Her apology caught me off guard. Emma had always been the ringleader of the ridicule, the one who made snide comments about my charity case existence. Yet here she was, standing vulnerable, admitting fault. Was this real? Or was it another act, a calculated attempt to save face now that my name carried weight? Before I could process her words fully, another figure emerged from the crowd, a familiar face I hadn't seen in years. It was Daniel, my childhood best friend, who had drifted away after I left the family estate. His arrival sent a jolt through me, stirring memories both sweet and painful. Clara, he said softly, his eyes searching mine. I heard about this place and had to come see it for myself. You've always been extraordinary, even when you didn't believe it. I'm so proud of you. His presence added another layer of complexity to the situation. Daniel had once been my confidant, my anchor during the darkest days of my estrangement from my family. But over time, distance and misunderstandings had driven us apart. Seeing him now reignited old feelings, longing, regret, hope. And then, as if the universe decided to pile on one final twist, a reporter shoved a microphone in my face, shouting questions about my background, my family, and the origins of the community center. Cameras flashed, capturing every awkward glance, every strained smile, every tear streaking down my cheeks. Suddenly, the private reckoning I had envisioned turned into a public spectacle, broadcast for the entire city to witness. Caught between my family's sudden interest, Victor's proposal, Daniel's reappearance, and the media circus unfolding around me, I realized that forgiveness and reconciliation weren't going to be simple. There would be challenges ahead, secrets unearthed, motives questioned, alliances tested. But amidst the chaos, one thing became clear. This wasn't just about proving myself anymore. It was about deciding who I wanted to be, and who I wanted to stand beside as I shaped the future. After weeks of reflection, I chose to forgive my family, recognizing their flaws but also their potential to grow. Together, we transformed the Whitmore name into a symbol of unity and purpose, channeling resources into the community center. Daniel and I rekindled our friendship, his support reminding me of the importance of love and trust. The media attention brought even more opportunities, allowing the center to expand its reach exponentially. My siblings became actively involved, finding fulfillment in helping others, a change that softened our strained relationships. Even my father admitted he was wrong, his pride giving way to genuine admiration for what I had achieved. Victor Langston continued to mentor me, teaching me how to navigate both business and philanthropy with integrity. As the years passed, the Whitmore Community Center became a beacon of hope, changing countless lives, including mine. Surrounded by newfound allies and healed bonds, I finally felt at peace with who I was and where I came from. In the end, it wasn't about proving anything to anyone, it was about building something beautiful together.